Hello YouTube and welcome to another episode of Ready for Pushback. In the next series of episodes we're going to learn how to fly to Longitude. The right seat is open. We're going to take a flight from Philadelphia International up to White Plains. Nice quick short flight. We'll teach you how to flight plan, take this bird up, bring her back down again. So let's climb aboard and let's get started. Okay guys, so today we are flying the Longitude from Philadelphia International, which we are where we are at right now, to White Plains Airport in New York. It's a very quick flight, and we will get over some of the basics here of loading a flight plan into the simulator and what have you. It's pretty interesting. Now I just want to preface this with, this is how I do everything. It's not necessarily procedural. The point is to have fun. So if you learn something from this, he's like, oh, I didn't know you could do that, what have you. That's the point of this video. That and just to have fun. All right? So there's a lot of things you don't have to do that I do. There's a lot of things you can do more than what I do. So I'm not a serious simmer. But I do like to fly somewhat procedural and do some of the things that you need to do for this aircraft. So I spent a lot of time, I spent over the last year. I didn't want to make any videos till I felt very comfortable with the aircraft. And even at that, I still make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Hopefully we don't crash the thing, what have you. Speaking of which, before we do anything at all, let's get into the menu here. Let's go into the assistance options. As you can see, I have everything on hard. One thing I will definitely do is make that easy. And I'm also going to turn on the navigation aids right now. And I will tell you why. So, reason behind that is, for the navigation aids, is I use it for taxiing purposes. Okay? So, this airport that I'm at is an add-on airport from, I can't think of the guy. I'll see if I can put the his link to flightsim.to in the description below. But in any case, it's an add-on for Philadelphia International Airport. However, the ATC does not give you the taxiways. It just says, taxi from blah 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 to, runway 27 left via taxiway. And that's it. You don't hear anything else. So you have to have some kind of pointer to, to taxi you over there. So I like the visuals though. There's a lot more buildings, better lighting, what have you. So there's plenty of add-ons that I have for this, not just this aircraft, but for the simulator in general. The airport we're flying into, the White Plains, I have an add-on for. I have the add-on here for this airport, for Philadelphia. I have some add-ons for this aircraft. Okay, so let's first get this thing up and running. Alright, so I have some external buttons and controls, so if you don't actually see me clicking on things in here, it's because I'm using those. So in any case, the real thing I'm going to do here real quick, just going to hit the resets on all these. This is your power, basically your power. Yeah, let me focus in on it so you guys can see it. Alright, so basically standby power, APU, blah blah blah. So I'm going to turn that on. We're going to flick our main batteries on here. There we go. Main batteries are on. Okay. I'm not going to put the generator control switches on yet. Okay. System's booting up. It's going through its test. We're going to put the bus tie open. Okay. That's it for now. Alright. All these automatically come on when you hit the power button. We're going to clear that. That's also a bug, by the way. These
Pause system test. Okay.
So these should be switched. The red should be the yellow should be the red. However, I think the wording's correct. Yeah, master warning should be red. Master caution should be yellow. That was a bug. But hey, at least they work now. So anyway, this is the working title. It's G5000 Suite. Glass cockpit for the Longitude. So it's awesome. I highly suggest downloading it, putting it in here, because the default is just junk. So this is a hell of a lot better and has a lot more functionality, and it's a lot of fun. So those are APU bleed switches. I will get through that in a minute. They're supposed to be off right now. By default, they're on automatically. So, but in any case, all right. First things first, we're going to turn our nav lights on. Okay. Second, we are going to tune to ground, and we're going to go down to ground services. We're going to ask for some power supply and some fuel.
Philadelphia ground, Cessna November, tree 1, tree 2 Bravo, could you please send a fuel truck?
Cessna November, tree 1, tree 2 Bravo, fuel truck is on the road.
Philadelphia ground, Cessna November, tree 1, tree 2 Bravo, could you please send a ground power unit?
Cessna November, tree 1, tree 2 Bravo, a ground power unit is on the road.
Technically, you don't have to do that. There's ways around it. This button's illuminated, available no matter what you do. But, hey, for realism purposes. So, what I did there is I clicked the external power, and I made it so it's on. What you want to see is, in this window here, here's your battery. You want to see a negative number on either one of these. That's how you know you're charging. Okay. Alright, so close that window for now. Alright, so first things first. What we're going to do is we're going to load our flight plan in. Now, there's lots of different ways you can do flight plans. If you actually made a flight plan within the flight simulator, it will already be inside your computer when you jump into the aircraft. That's not how real life works. Real life, you need to enter your flight plan into your computer. Okay? I mean, there might be some systems out there where the flight plan gets loaded in automatically, but not here. You know, not in this aircraft. Not that I'm aware of. So, I'm just waiting for the fuel truck to show up. Let's take a look outside. Guys are walking around. I don't know where the fuel truck is yet, but it'll come down the line here, I'm sure. Alright, so yeah, this is a nice add-on. Oh, plus I have simple traffic that's brand new from Airsoft. Highly recommend it. Now, is it accurate? 100%? You know, are the planes where they should be? No, they're still a work in progress, but it's a heck of a lot better than the default aircraft that you get. So anyway, let's hop back into Cockpit. Alright, so we're going to load the flight plan first. That's the key thing. Now, let me take you to my flight plan. I made my flight plans in Simbrief, which is brought to you by Navigraph. Okay, you don't need a subscription to Navigraph to use Simbrief. Simbrief is a free online tool for planning flights. Gives you your fuel, gives you everything you need. It's a great software. However, that being said, I do highly recommend that you get a subscription to Navigraph if you fly all the time, especially jets, because you get the charts and what have you, and the charts integrate into working titles G5000 here, and I'm going to show you, and it comes in handy when it comes to your flight planning. So, alright, so let's quick jump out of the aircraft. I want to take you over to Simbrief real quick, so I'll show you my flight plan. So here's my flight plan, okay? This is what you ultimately... I'm not going to go through Simbrief with you. I may do that on a later video. But this is a flight plan that's already done. So, although my times in and out are incorrect, but who cares? In any case, so here's your route, okay? Your route is... So we're going to take off from Philadelphia on the 27 left runway direct to ditch. From ditch, we're going to get on the Victor 312 airway. If you don't know much about Victor Air and jetways and what have you, Victor Airway is a lower airway. So since we're not flying very far today, if you notice up here, this number here is our flight level. So we're only going to 17,000 feet today. So pretty short flight, but it's a good one to teach you on. So in any case, so direct the ditch, get on the Victor 312, get off at CYN, and then immediately onto the Buno 4 for runway 34. Okay? Alright, so that is our flight plan. This is what we're going to enter into our system. The other things you want to keep in mind here are this number here, this number here. So that's our minimum takeoff fuel. That's our minimum block fuel. I always load our fuel, block fuel. This is in pounds. So 4,567 pounds of fuel today. Okay. The other number is takeoff weights and landing weights. So our estimated landing weight is 25,965. Our takeoff weight estimated is 27,756. It'll probably be more than that, though. I find that it runs a little higher, and this also runs a little higher. So, in any case, those are the important numbers in all this. Like I said, we'll go through Simbrief. This is the whole breakdown. But we'll go through Simbrief at some other point. But those are the numbers we need to know. So, our route, our block fuel, and we'll get into the weights in the actual aircraft. So let's get back to the aircraft. As you can see, our fuel truck has shown up. He's probably out here. Oh, there he is. He's already left, even though we haven't fueled up yet, but hey, he came. So, alright, so what we want is that 4,000. So what did we say it was? 4,000. 4,567. Alright, so we want, now I've already loaded the plane ahead of time, so as far as it's just, there's no passengers today, and I did that in the flight plan too. There's no passengers, there's no cargo, so no baggage, no nothing. It's just co-pilot, which is you guys and me. So that is all that's on the aircraft. So payload's already done. As far as that goes, what we need to do is our fuel. So here's our fuel. We're in pounds. So right now we have 7,269. We're actually taking some fuel off. So let's go up this 4,670. That covers us for sure. Okay. So that's how many pounds of fuel. As you can see, we're a little heavier than what it said on the flight plan. So we're really about 28,394. I probably, if I got it perfectly to what gallons it would be, then yes. Then it would probably be the weight, but that's fine. We're going to use this number here anyway. The other thing you need to come over here is do your center of gravity. So you basically, what you want to do is get this thing, and it's pretty close, into so if this was sitting like this, you would want to get this so it is lined right on that line, right in the middle as much as you can. So we're going to bring that in like that. So you can see our center of gravity is 32.17 MAC. That's an important number to know. Reason being is you're going to set your trim to that number. Okay? So, and we're going to also set our V speeds to our takeoff weight. Okay? So, by the way, that can be accessed up here. I'll just bring that up. Oops. Let's get rid of it. Okay, so we'll get to V speeds and all that fun jazz in a minute. First thing, enter the flight plan. So here we go. So this is where you're going to enter all your information in. It's got some great stuff here: traffic, weather, charts, procedures, direct to speed bugs, waypoints, nearest. Go into flight plan. Very simple. Alright, there's a lot of different menus here, but this is real simple. Add your origin. Okay. By the way, if you're like me, you want to type on your keyboard, your actual physical keyboard that you have. You can't do that. You actually have to type it in here. So, I do it all the time. I make mistakes. KPHL. Where you're leaving from, Philadelphia International. Hit enter. at your destination. White Plains is KHPN. Westchester County. That's White Plains. Hit enter. Right, automatically sends you a route direct to. Whoop. There you go. Straight up. We're not doing that though. Not allowed to do that. Alright, flight plan. If you remember the flight plan, it's direct to ditch. We don't have a SID today out of Philadelphia. It is runway heading until controllers tell you to head to your waypoint. Alright, so there you go. Now if you notice there's a star here. That star signifies between each waypoint. So airport to ditch. Alright. And then if you wanted to continue to add waypoints, let's just say we had more waypoints that were direct tos, then you would hit this route button and you could just keep going on and on and on. And just enter in all your waypoints right here without ever leaving this window. Alright. Let's see. So, anyway, so the only waypoint we have is ditch. And if you remember what I said before, is we're getting on the Victor 312 airway now. Ditch is an on-ramp for, or an intersection for, the Victor 312 airway. So in order to get on to enter an airway in, it's very simple. You click on the waypoint, and then this menu pops up. And this is where you can adjust different things. But if you notice, you have a load airway here. It's very simple. If your airway, depending on your flight, might have hundreds of waypoints in it. And probably not that many, but lots. It would have lots of waypoints. You could have lots of waypoints, especially if you're going across the United States or going over to Europe or what have you. So if you stayed on an airway for a while, or multiple airways, you're going to have on and off ramps for those airways. So these are the airways for that particular intersection. So that waypoint. So we want the Victor 312. All right. And I told you we're going to exit. So you always have an on ramp and you have an exit to an airway. So your exit, if you hit the exit key, all your exits are going to show up on the Victor 312 airway. All right. So if you don't see your particular exit, which ours is CYN, there it is. You select it, and you hit load airway. Now the airway's in. Okay? Very simple. But we're not just going to CYN. We're getting on the Bruno 4 arrival. Okay? So there's no more waypoints. So let me bring up the... Let me explain this to you. So DCT means direct. So 27 left, direct the ditch, onto the Victor 312 airway, off at CYN. If you notice this, Bruno 4 is not a waypoint. It is not another direct to thing. I mean, we are going direct to it, but this is your star. Okay? So your star is your standard terminal arrival route. Okay? It's a published route to get into an airport. Alright? That is in the procedures area here. You don't actually enter it in here. So you go to procedures. Alright? We don't have a SID. That's where the SID would be. It would be a standard instrument departure. We don't have one. There it is. Automatically popped up. There's several of them for the airport. Different ways in. But there's the Bruno 4 arrival. Transition, CYN. That makes sense. Obviously, we're coming in from CYN. So, in order to get into the Bruno 4, we're coming from the CYN. There's probably a couple. Yeah, there's two. But the CYN is the one that we're coming off of, so that makes sense. So we're going from CYN, we're transitioning into the Bruno 4. However, runway 11 is not the runway we're coming into. If you look back on our thing, runway 34 is the runway that is expected. that could change, but it's expected based on the weather conditions right now. So we have to put in runway 34. Okay. So that is our thing. Now, if you want to look, and this is where it's important to look, you can see all the waypoints on this star. Okay. Including BDR. Okay. And Westo. All these are all the different waypoints. If you want to look at it, what they did here is they give you a preview. So you can actually hit show on map or show the chart. So let's show on map. Alright. So let's go up here. And from CYN, there's Buno, Deer Park, Sound, Winnie, BDR, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So that is your setup. Okay? So you got rhymes, you know. And the reason I'm pointing these waypoints out to you is this is important, because you're going to see in a minute here why this is important. Okay? And what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And this is where you as a pilot have to make your choices of how you're going to enter in. So runway 34, okay, if you look at this, there's north. Well, 34 is north. So this little line that you see right here where the airport is pretty much the runway. Okay. So that's all fine and dandy, and you're like, okay, so, well, why wouldn't I just go from Deer Park right to my approach into the runway here? Why do I have to go all the way out here to do this? And I'm going to explain that to you, okay? Because I have flown this flight several times, and I did pick an approach, an iOS approach into runway 34 that takes you from Deer Park, and what it does is it cancels all these other waypoints out and takes you right to your approach here. But I'll show you the reason why. Alright, and it has to do with the funny thing about stars. Okay, so instead of looking at the preview, let's look at the chart. So if you have Navigraph, okay, you'll get these charts as part of your subscription. You can also add these charts, as you can see. You can bring them up right on your screen here inside the aircraft, which is awesome. So let's look at the chart. Alright, so coil, that's CYN. So we're transitioning from CYN to Buno. Buno is expected to cross at 17,000 feet or below. Okay? Alright. However, Deer Park is expected to be at 15,000 feet or above. So you have to be between 17,000 feet and 15,000 feet, or 16,000 feet, basically, to be in this transition and to hit these waypoints and be on this airway, okay? Or be on this star, I'm sorry. So what happens is if, let's just say we were to select the iOS for runway 34. Here's the airport. This is the airport we're going to. You have to be above 15,000 feet to hit this waypoint. I can tell you right now from experience, you can do it, but you have to drop dramatically altitude to get onto your approach. And you need to drop. So what will happen is I've flown this in air traffic control, and I like using Microsoft's air traffic control for realism purposes, but I tell you what, it stinks as far as real life stuff. It's in its infancy, and it really stinks. So, but what happens here is you have to drop your altitude way fast, and I mean, we're talking 3,000 feet per minute kind of thing, and it's just your speed's high, and there's a lot. You get behind the aircraft very quickly, and it doesn't make for a nice approach. So what we're going to do, and I've never flown the full approach here, is what we're going to do is we're going to follow this actual full thing full chart. See, so by the time you get up to Westo, you're expecting to cross at above 6,000 feet, or at or above 6,000 feet. So, which is good. That's what you want. You want to be down here. Okay. So here's Bridgeport, the BDR. All right. What I found was there is an RNAV approach from, you can do Rhymes or you could do Bridgeport, but there's an RNAV approach into runway 34. So you need this space in order to descend safely. And that's why you got to look at your approaches and see what makes sense. Okay? Even though you're going further away from the airport, it makes sense to follow this and then take, instead of using the ILS approach into runway 34, let's use one of the RNAV approaches into runway 34. Okay? So, I'm not going to get into all the chart reading here either, but that's why it takes the time, and you take the time to look at all this stuff and go, okay, what makes sense? Trust me, the computer, the simulator itself, does never make sense. It you know, you have to look at it realistically. Just like if you had a SID, you got to see what direction you're going, what makes more sense to follow. There's lots of different ways out of airports, just like there's lots of different ways into airports. And so, yeah, I like the Buno 4 arrival, but here's what we're going to do. So I'm going to turn the preview off. We're going to load this in, okay? We're going to go back, and then the approach. If I hit ILS runway 34 right now, like I said, it cuts it off. And let's preview it. Show it on the map. There it is. Okay? Well, here's your deer park down here. It just automatically just swings you over, and boom, you look at that ring. That's 4 nautical miles. Your deer park's only about another 10 miles out this way. It doesn't give you enough room to drop. You either got to do a spiral or something to get down. Could you use it? Yes, you could. Is it practical? No, it's not. And it doesn't actually follow the pattern like you're supposed to follow. These procedures are in place in order to keep aircrafts safe, as well as bring them in an organized fashion. So the ILS approach does not make sense in this scenario. Okay? If you're coming from a different direction, what have you, maybe it would. So we're not going to use that. However, you go down the list here, you have an RNAV 34 arrival, and you have a 34Y, and you have an RNAV 34Z. All right. Which one do you choose? Well, let's look at them. Show on the map. All right. BDR. That is Bridgeport. That is one of our waypoints in the star. Okay? There are some more waypoints on the star up here. However, you're already down to 6,000 feet here, required from the star. You have a 10-mile loop right here. So you're already perfect for an approach, an RNAV approach. And yes, you're still using the jet axe and the isolate. And technically speaking, you could switch to an ILS approach coming in here at that point. Okay? But you should RNAV approach it, and if you want to put your, you can always use the ILS as far as setting it up. In fact, I highly recommend you always have a backup. So yeah, you should have the ILS approach programmed in as a backup always. If you have an ILS, runway, always have it in there. But like I said, we can just use the RNAV. So this is probably going to be our best approach, the RNAV Y, 34Y. But let's look at the Z just for argument's sake. All right. So that's got a CMK as a See, that doesn't make sense. That's coming in from the north. So if we were coming in from, you know, up in New England or what have you, that might make sense. Doesn't make sense in our scenario to use this approach. So the RNAV 34Y with the BDR transition. Now there's other transitions here too. There's HARP and there's RINES. RINES is at the very end of our other our Bruno 4 arrival. So we could fly the entire arrival into RINES and then come in. But I think that's unnecessary. Alright. So let's just use the BDR transition. I'll turn that back off and we'll load it. Alright. So there we are. We're in. Okay. Now I'm going to switch views here. Pardon me for a second here. Let's do this. Alright. Now, if you want to pan this window, let's do this. If you want to pan this window, what you want to do is push down on this, okay? And that brings up your flight plan, okay? And you can focus in and out via this. Alright. So let's do this. I'm just going to take this. This is basically a little mouse. See how that works? So you put your thing here so you can see. Going from Philadelphia out the ditch to Suisun. Alright. This is the little Victor 312 airway. It's just a short little jog. Alright. Up to Bruno. And then pretty much the full thing. Now we're going to focus in. Oops. But we can lose altitude over here and then come in for our approach. That's why we're not going to go direct here. Would we save time? Sure. Is it a pain in the ass? Pardon my French. Yes, it is. So, alright. Back to home. Boom. Flight plan is loaded. Going to put our flight directors on. Set this up. This is basically your autopilot panel. So you don't want this, see this little switch right here? You don't want this on FMS. You want it on manual. Okay. And you want to switch this so it's to 220 knots. If you notice down here, your tape is setting up, or here. We're setting up for 220. I have an external thing, so I'm going to use that quick. I like to set it at 220 knots. Alright. That's all we're going to set for here for now. Okay. So then we have to go over to this screen here. There's also the co-pilot has one over there. Alright. So your nav source is going to be your flight mode computer, or FMS. Okay. That switches this to a magenta. And that's basically, you can see it, Philadelphia to ditch. 24.4 nautical miles. GPS is what you want for here. There's a couple different ones. You want it either off, nav 1, nav 2, or GPS. You want on GPS. I usually set my bearing 2 to nav 1. Alright. Let's double check everything else here. I think we are all set otherwise. Okay. Our next thing at this point is to start up our APU. Alright. So we're going to come over here. Alright, what your APU is your auxiliary power unit. It's a little engine in the tail that gives you the ability to start your engines and gives you power source. So you're not using the ground power unit. Alright, so we're going to come over here. You hit start. This is your APU. It goes automatically to on. And you're going to go down to this screen here, and you're going to watch your APU. You can actually hear it. It does use fuel. When it gets to 100%, we're going to disconnect external power. We already hit the reset on that. We're going to click that to on. Alright, there you go, minus 56. So we're not using ground power anymore. Alright. One of the weird quirks about the simulator is when you get your clearance from ATC, it disconnects the auxiliary power unit automatically. Alright, we'll show you that. You could do it here, but you don't even have to bother. Alright, so let's get our clearance. If you notice, come down to 8, request IFR clearance for instrument flight plan.
Philadelphia ground, Cessna November, tree 1 tree 2 Bravo IFR to White Plains, ready to copy.
Cessna November tree 1 tree 2 Bravo is cleared to White Plains Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 27 left climb and maintain 7,000 feet. Departure frequency is 133.875 squawk 0065.
Alright, in your clearance delivery, you get several informations. You get the runway you're going to take off from, the altitude that you need to climb to, your initial altitude, your departure frequency, and your squawk code. I always enter in my squawk code immediately. The reason I do that...
Cessna tree 2 Bravo, did you hear my last transmission?
Yes, I did hear your transmission. You just need to be patient because I'm talking. Let me read it back.
Cessna November, tree 1 tree 2 Bravo, cleared to White Plains Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 27 left climb and maintain 7,000 feet. Departure on 133.875 squawk 0065.
Cessna tree 2 Bravo, readback is correct. Contact ground on 121.9er when ready to taxi. Good day.
Good day. Alright. The reason I entered in the squawk code manually is for realism purposes. If you hit the readback, it'll automatically put in your squawk code, but it'll...
Philadelphia ground, Piedmont 6054, request taxi to the gate.
How rude. So what I did is I entered it manually, okay? Because the reason behind that is up here, it'll automatically put you into TA only mode, which is what you want to have on. You could do on altitude reporting or TA mode, only mode. TA only mode is what you're going to use ultimately here. But we're still not ready to go. We're not ready to taxi. We haven't even started the engines yet. So I don't want my transponder blinking on their radar right away. So it's kind of unrealistic. So I don't like it automatically shifting it to TA only. So I like to put it in myself. If you put it in yourself ahead of you reading it back, it will not switch this. It'll keep it on standby. You just have to remember it's part of your checklist, you know, and I'm going to go through the checklist here in a little bit, that you need to put it, you know, your transponder on before you take off. So, okay. All right. So we have our clearance. And if you notice, let me spin around here. The APU already disconnected and it's sitting over here. Or the GPU, I'm sorry. The APU is running, that's what you hear running. But there's the GPU. GPU automatically disconnected and moved over to the aircraft. The APU is running right now, that's what you hear. That's what's powering our aircraft. Oh, I did forget to do something. And had I used my checklist, I would have caught it. This is why you use checklists. Alright? Your beacon switch should be on, technically, before you start the APU. So that's your flashing beacon on the aircraft. So, although actually on my checklist it doesn't say that. So, alright. If you go to flightsim.to, you can find checklists there. There's lots of them. A couple different developers. I have one here. I actually modified it myself because there's a couple things in it that aren't in it that should be in it. But there's a couple of guys that have done checklists for the longitude. Any of them will work. Like I said, there's no right or wrong to any of this. So, all right. The next thing we want to pick up is our ATIS. So let's just listen to that quick.
Philadelphia Airport information, Charlie.
It's always Charlie, by the way.
Wind 322 at 24. Visibility 10. Sky condition, ceiling 4,500 feet overcast. Temperature 7. Dew point 10. Altimeter 29.9 tree. Visual runway tree 5 in use. Landing and departing runway 26, runway 27 right, and runway 27 left. VFR aircraft say direction of...
Alright. That's all I need to know. If you don't feel like listening to it, you can just shut it up. It'll still scroll the whole thing through here. So, the important things are 2.9.3 is the altimeter setting. If you hit the B key on your thing, it'll set it automatically on all your altimeters. So you have 3 of them there. So we set that. So that's done. Okay. So, checklist. We're at the point where we should look at the checklist. Okay, before we start, we did that. Parking brake set. Battery left and light on. We already went through all this. APU knob stable, the blah, 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 blah. Stand on power test on. So we weren't going to do that. FMS and Autopilot, COM1. Get your ATIS. Transponder code if needed. Barometer we just set. Flight plan is in. The origin, the destination, and the waypoints. The procedures are in. This is the stars, the approaches as needed. Nav 1 and Nav 2 frequencies as needed. Nav source, which is this over here, should be FMS, which that's our nav source. The PFD speed bugs. Alright, speed bugs. Got to put the speed bugs in. Alright, you can do that in 2 different places. You can either do it on this one or over here. Either or, it doesn't matter. We'll go to this one. Alright, speed bugs are in here. Can you use these? Yes. No problem. They work. Are they realistic? Not exactly. Not for your weight. They change. Your V-speeds change depending on how heavy you are. You can physically take this plane off a lot sooner if the plane's a lot lighter. Our plane is a lot lighter than these particular numbers here. So, alright. If you forget how much you weigh, go back up to here. I know we're 28,000 something. There we are. 28,399 pounds. Okay? This number is also important to remember in a minute. So, we fall between 28,000 and 32,000. Alright? So our runway length has to be greater than 4,700, greater or equal to 4,700 feet. We cannot have a runway that's less than 4,700 feet by our weight. Okay? So, that being said, we definitely don't have an issue here. But our V-speeds, and by the way, if you're wondering where I'm getting these numbers from, they're also online. You can look them up. There's a chart for them. Okay? In fact, the guy that does the... and I'll see if I can put his link in the video description, does the checklist, has these charts. So, there's a chart for setting your trim for takeoff, and there's a V-speed chart. So the V-speed chart for ours is V1 should be 109. .112 is our rotation speed. So you can see there's not a lot of space there. So V1 is the maximum speed to safely stop the aircraft on a 4,700 foot runway. Now, I don't think these take in consideration dry or wet runways. I'm sure that'll come eventually. So our V2 speed is 124, and your VTO is always 185. We're going to click them on, and as you see, that puts our V speeds up on our tape right here. Alright, so V speeds are on. And we're just going to set the timer. I'm not going to do minimums right now. Just have the timer ready to go. Alright. That's what we do. So, Let's see, is there anything else I can think of right now? I don't think so. I think that's it. I think we are ready to push back and start these engines and get the hell out of here. Let's check our checklist. Transponder code, flight plan procedures, yep, speed bugs, AOO, wind. That would be these things down here if you want your angle of attack and your wind information up. It's there. Auto throttle knob is at FMS. On this one it says FMS. I don't use that. The auto throttle speed knob. I always put it the manual. I don't use the FMS one. Oh, yes, one more thing. What were we cleared to? We were cleared to 7,000 feet. Need to put that in your altimeter here. Your altitude bug. $7,000. Okay? That's set. Alright. Very good. I think we're ready to go. Yep. So we just got to get over to 2.7. Now, let me check something here real quick. I don't remember if I did this already here. Yeah, I did. Okay. Yeah, I did that earlier with you guys. All right. Very good. So let's get pushed back. Shut off our parking brake. It's here. This is your parking brake. Down is off. And we're going to get pushed back.
Philadelphia ground, Cessna November, tree 1, tree 2, Bravo requesting pushback.
Cessna November, tree 1, tree 2, Bravo, pushback, request accepted.
There's a little pushback tug. You can either start your engines now, if you'd like, or you can start your engines later, after you've been parked. I'll wait. Sometimes I start them right now, but we'll start them here in a minute. We'll wait till we get pushed back. It's easier to concentrate on one thing at a time here. So once they hook up and get us going here. Now, put the emergency controls. Emergency lights are on. That's what that is here. I hate this thing, the menu. That's what this is right here. That's emergency lights. Once we clear this aircraft, I'm going to go steer the aircraft to the left.
Philadelphia ground, Cessna November, tree 1, tree 2, Bravo requesting pushback tug to steer the aircraft to the left.
There we go.
Cessna November, tree 1, tree 2, Bravo, your request has been transmitted to the operator.
That way we get turned around here, so we're facing that way, because that's where we're going to go. This is why it's just easier to do one thing at a time here. And stop.
Philadelphia ground, Cessna November, tree 1, tree 2, Bravo requesting the end of pushback.
Cessna November, tree 1, tree 2, Bravo, request to end pushback received.
Alright. Checklists. Checklists are important. So recognition lights are on, COM 1, ground services, parking brake released. Engine start, parking brake set. Anti-collision lights are on. Power levers are set to idle. Fuel shutoff valve is open. That's this one right here. Alright, engine guard open on engine 2. Alright. APU bleed switch is on. And you hit start. What that was about. Weird. You're looking for... That kind of screwed me up, but we're looking for N28. Then you hit open. We have ignition. Turn your starter off. Oil pressure's up. We got a good start. I don't know why the throttle kept doing that. It was weird. Why does it keep doing that? What's that? Look at that. Very strange. I don't know why it keeps doing that. That's not good though. Something's messed up there. Alright. Have to keep an eye on that. Alright. So that engine's stable. We can close the guard. Boom. Open the guard. Hit the starter on. Wait till we get up to 8 and 2. Then hit the run. Ignition. Turn the starter off. Wait till the engine becomes stable. Everything looks good there. Good engine start or an oil pressure. Close your guard. Turn on the generator control switches, close the bus, shut off your APU generator, shut down your APU. APU should be coming down. Turn off your master caution. Your generator off APU will always be illuminated. We're charging now via the engines. That's why the generator control switches are on. You want to close the bus at this point, so each generator operates each engine. Alright. If we have a problem in the air, we can open it back up again. Alright. I just hope that throttle thing doesn't give me issues. I'm not sure what's going on there. I'm telling you, the simulator's still got plenty of bugs in it, guys. It's just the way it is. Alright. Taxi lights are on. And this is where I will go down to the FMS and I will put altitude recording on, or the TA only. So now they can see me on the radar. Go back to clearance. Request taxi.
Philadelphia ground, Cessna November, tree 1 tree 2 Bravo with Delta ready to taxi IFR.
Cessna November tree 1 tree 2 Bravo taxi to and hold short of runway 27 left using taxiway cross runway 17 cross runway 27 right. Contact tower on 1 tree 5.1 when ready.
See how notice it says using taxiway cross runway 17 cross runway 27 right? Doesn't tell you what taxiways to use.
Taxi to and hold short runway 27 left using taxiway cross runway 17 cross runway 27 right Cessna tree 2 Bravo.
Alrighty folks, at this point I think we're going to end the video here. And we will continue on in the next video. I will continue the taxi, the takeoff, and the approach into White Plains. Thank you for joining us today on this video. If, hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe button for more future content and learning how to fly this aircraft. In the meantime, I will figure out why this throttle is doing the weird thing that it is, and we'll see you on the next flight. Have a good flight, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.